You have the ability to break down. Larry Rawson's with me here at the Thomas Loop Radio Show at WJJL 1440 AM, Niagara Falls, Buffalo, New York. I'd like to discuss the current state, which is about 12 days from now, the Boston Marathon. Now, I'm aware, and you're aware, that anything can happen to athletes from this point forward. I mean, they're in the taper phase, they're getting ready, and anyone could drop out. Anyone could come out of the woodwork, have a great training period of 12 to 16 weeks to get ready for the event. What is your top 2, top 3 male, female athletes and wheelchair division at this point?
I think let's start with the women, and this is potentially, and I think this is true. When I do some homework and read up on things, this is probably the deepest field based on the times the athletes have turned in the past that the Boston Marathon's ever assembled on the women's side. If you take the top 10, their average time to cover a marathon is not the average. All of them, the top 10, have run faster than 2 hours and 23 minutes. And to make a long story short, to put that in perspective as to how fast they are, these athletes are just, it's extraordinary when you start talking a mile pace of what they've averaged. They're in the range of about a 5 minute 26 second, 5 minutes, say 5:26, 5:25.
Right.
And there are athletes that are down at 5:20 per mile for 26 miles. Now, if you're a jogger, you've got some idea of how quick a 6-minute mile pace is. These women are doing under 5:30, 5:20 in that range, and they're doing it for 26 miles. Shalane Flanagan, an American, I think, has a chance to do what she did last year and maybe be even closer up there. She'll have a real bevy of outstanding Ethiopians and top Kenyans to contend with as she did last year. But she forced the pace. She wound up finishing 7th, but got a personal best by a number of minutes, ran a 2-hour, 22-minute marathon. Her mom, as a sidebar to show you how genetics sometimes plays a role for all of us, her mom, her name is Cheryl Trewargy now. She's actually involved in the sport as a photographer, but ran the fastest marathon and was the first woman to get under 2 hours and 50 minutes in the early days of the sport. And her dad was a very good runner as well, collegiately. So the genes are there, and she's got the toughness and the resiliency. She's from nearby Marblehead, Massachusetts, and was at least a 5-time NCAA champion in distances before she turned pro. She went to North Carolina. So she's the big hope for the United States. Desiree Davila Linden, who finished 2nd in 2011. I don't think, looking at her times coming in, guys, that she is as quick as she was then, but she's another top American along with Amy Hastings. On the men's side, there are 10 guys who have run 2:06:30 for the marathon or faster. And you've got a former world record holder who's in the race named Patrick McCow leading the group. And all of them have won something on the order of more than 40 worldwide marathons of note in major cities who are in this field. And Bel Karui, who's a 2-time world champion in the marathon, is in it as well. And I can go on with a whole bunch of other guys. The guy who's run the fastest half marathon, and that presages the fact that you can be a very good marathoner when you can run a half as fast as this guy does. And nobody's run a half marathon faster. He's from Ethiopia, and an Olympic and world championship medalist in track and in cross country. So the field is hugely deep, as it always is, and we must mention the great Mev Keflezighi, whose family arrived in the United States with nothing but what was in their bags. Did not learn English. Is perhaps the most amazing story I've ever read in any sport of a family that arrived in this United States and so quickly assimilated into the country and started contributing in major ways, the entire family. I mean, we're talking 9 children, and I'm doing this off the top of my head. It could even be 10, but you see the point. All of them have gone to wonderful schools, principally on the West Coast, Cal Berkeley, UCLA, that type of thing, Southern Cal. One is a teacher. You've got two of them that are lawyers. You've got a medical doctor in the family. You've got two others that are still in school. Dad got the family up and did this every day and said, this is your opportunity. We are going to work hard together. And he sat them all down at 5:30 in the morning every single day, and they practiced their English because they couldn't speak it when they arrived in 87. And here Med has gone on to just win the New York City Marathon, the TCS is called New York City Marathon now. And then, and just a thing that was an earthquake in the sport, beating the field that he did with great strategic, he just is a great tactician. He doesn't have the raw talent of the guys that can run 2:05 for the marathon. But he took off at 8 miles last year in the race and got a gap on the field, and everybody's attitude in the field, the top runners, was, we'll catch him at about the 23-mile mark. We'll just work up and work on him and get him. But let him do his own thing. We'll run our race. So the peloton stayed back. And the end of the story was they could not catch him.
No.
They kept closing down on him. And, you know, if you followed anything about running or tried it or know anybody in high school that was a good runner, my best high school mile was 4:28. I kept improving in college. But in 1 mile that's slightly downhill at mile 24, the guy that finished second, in an effort to get him, ran a 4-minute, 31-second mile in the middle of a marathon. And he could not catch Med. He gained on him, and he got within 8 seconds, and Med persevered and won.
I recall the final mile of that race, and you were calling that section of the race, and at that point they were at maximum effort and couldn't go any further, and that gap sort of maintained itself the rest of the way. I'm a former distance runner, and a backstory about Med Keflezighi is I was in the 2003 USAAK Championship. I think it was seeded 46 to 50. The athletes that are selected. I forget the process, but I was in that race. And just, it was at Central Park, New York City. It was a day kind of like I'm looking out the window here, very raw, rainy and all that. And Meb just put a hurting on the field. And then the following year, he wins the silver medal in the marathon. And then as the years progress, he just seemed to be becoming even a better racer than he is, the year before. And here we are today, and he's going to be 40 next month, and he still has a chance to win.
Yeah, it's stunning. I mean, this is the upper reaches. This is kind of a discussion for another time, but I will just touch on this. This is very unofficial, but I've actually spent time analyzing age as it reflects on your ability and as a runner or an athlete or a basketball player or anything. And we start losing our quickness, Thomas and Ken. We start losing that step to the basket, the guard. When you're about 26 or 7, it's hard to keep that absolute flash of brilliance if you're an NBA player. Now, you don't get a lot slower, of course, but it's hard when you're 32, 33 to be the best 100-meter dash guy in the world. But the body makes up for it because we can build stamina. Point of the story is when you get to be 38, 39, you're absolutely at the upper reaches of what you could possibly do. And in most cases, people are starting on the downside. They don't have the speed they had because as you get into your 30s, you lose it. And even building up stamina to compensate for the speed slowing down catches up with you. So it was stunning that he did it just a month or so shy of being 39. And my homework says that the body really starts to change. It's a slow process up to this age. And about 42 or 43, when you look at world records, they start going down more fast, more quickly. And you keep pushing back farther time by working hard like Meb does, but you get to a point in your 40s where that's where the change is most noticeable.
His name is Larry Rawson. He's in the Thomas Loop Radio Show. He's going to be covering the Boston Marathon, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time in the morning, April 20th in Boston, Massachusetts for the BAA Boston Marathon. Thank you so much for your time. This was great.
Gentlemen, nice to be with you. It's great. And congratulations on what you accomplished, Thomas. Very impressive.
All right. I appreciate it. All the best to you, Larry. Take care.
Nice talking with you, Larry.
Bye-bye.
Larry Rawson here, the Thomas Super Radio Show, the voice of track and field. He'll be covering the Boston Marathon April 20th. It's an 8:30 start on the coverage. I mean, it'll be ongoing until 1 p.m. In studio with me